Unicorn. Unicorn.
Hello and welcome to Ask a Unicorn. I'm your host, Ciara O'Mara, and this is brought to you by the Unicorn Union. In this podcast, I'll ask creatives that are mothers about how they balance their creativity with work and family. What fuels it? What tips, hacks and advice they have for fellow parents that might help. Join me in hearing their magic. Hello, listeners. Welcome. This week, I'm speaking to Lottie Marriner. Lottie is an award-winning creative director with over 16 years experience agency side. She's a copywriter who's passionate about big ideas, pithy headlines, demystifying the industry to bring young people from different backgrounds in and retaining brilliant women so they can be promoted to the highest levels. She's obsessed with Marmite, an absent-minded hummer, dogmatic about putting milk in before water when making tea, and mum to two little whitelings, Edie, 9, and Ava, 6. Lottie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Hi.
Welcome. We're speaking on one of the hottest days of the year, guys. If you'll all remember that lovely heat wave that we had, that is when Lottie and myself are having a chat and we're both melting in our spare room.
I've just got a permanently sweaty chin. I have this very weird place that my sweat always settles on my chin first. I'm really conscious of it in like big meetings and heat waves. It's just a shiny chin. It's great.
Yeah, I have a shiny lip. There we go. We're so glamorous. So therefore, another reason why not have a podcast with video, isn't it? So I wanted to ask you first, where am I talking to you from and what did you have to do to get here for a chat today? As it's no mean feat as a mother to get to anything. So yeah, fill us in. How did you get here today, Lottie?
I am speaking to you from Zone 4 in London, Southeast London, aka the hottest place on the planet currently. And today I was in the park with my dog pretty early, like shortly after 6 a.m. because it's so hot and she needed a walk and I needed some headspace. And then at 12:30, I picked up my kids from school because it's now closed for the rest of the week because of the heat wave. And they're not going back until Monday. And I have creative kind of submission-y thing that I have to do for end of day tomorrow. And I've got a pitch that I started on Monday that I have to submit on Friday to then present on Monday. So it's quite crunchy here, but
That sounds a bit, intense. And then just to add, you have to talk to me this evening.
no, this is nice. This is a treat.
An intense week. And then to add the drama of having kids home with you in the heat. I've gotten a similar message from the school. So a lot of juggling going on for parents in this week, isn't there?
Yeah, massive juggling. But then that's it, isn't it? It's always like that. And as soon as you think you settle into a routine, something comes up and we have to pivot and change everything and make new plans. And I think that's just our lives for the next, not too many more years, surely.
Great. Well, I'm so glad you made it here, even with all the roller coaster of today. Strong, being up at 6. Yeah. So just to kind of ease ourselves in, we're going to have a little bit of fun. You might have heard in some other podcasts, I tried to christen everyone with a unicorn name.
Yes.
And so let's find out what yours is. I would love to know what your favorite food and place and thing to do is. And then I'm going to put it into lovely Gemini. And we're going to get 3 options from the AI, only because we're under time pressure, not that we're not, incredibly creative and talented. And then we'll see if it's any good. We might give it another go, And then we will christen you with your lovely unicorn name, Lottie.
Love that. And I can then change my LinkedIn profile.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I hugely overthought this because I love all food. So when I was trying to write down a list of my favorite food, the list did get quite long. And it is mainly carby, but I think I'm going to settle on pasta. I was going to try and be specific for you and say a type of pasta, but I just couldn't. It was too hard.
Any shape goes, basically. Doesn't matter what it's covered in. No?
All pasta.
Okay, he loves all types of pasta. I'm going to put that in. In fairness, pasta is life, isn't it? All types of pasta. Okay, and what's your favorite place?
Again, I was really wrestling with this one, but I think I'm going to say the bath because it feels like very, like it's just my kind of little cocoon or my island. And I mean, I have actually sometimes been on the bath and then my daughter will come in and be like, just need a poo. That does ruin it a bit sometimes. But usually it's sort of a safe space. And if I can be reading in there and there's maybe like a wine or a gin and tonic, then that's peak.
Oh,
me.
Okay, so loves reading, maybe in the bath, we say reading in the
Yeah.
bath, and with a wine. Why not? Is it wine or gin? Which way? Well, we'll put wine maybe.
Yeah, because you're now going to ask me my favorite thing to do, and I'm going to say drinking wine with friends in a garden. So now it does sound like I have an alcohol problem. And
No. Okay, so then the thing to do is drinking wine in a garden, yeah?
yeah, I know that's incredibly basic, but it really,
No,
I do love it.
that is delightful. It is like the most simple, amazing things in life.
Yeah, friends,
Um,
picky bits, wine, done.
yeah. Drinking wine in the garden with friends. That sounds dreamy. So we should be doing in this blazing heat instead of melting in our spare room in our house on a call. Right. Okay. So let's go. Sparkly jingle. Here we go. Sometimes it goes really rogue, which I like. And then
Yeah, I
sometimes,
appreciate that. Yeah, let's hear
yeah,
the left field.
yeah, and then sometimes it goes really literal. It's feeling, yeah, a little bit more rogue today, I think. So the first one is Lottie, the rigatoni, Reed and Rose. Not bad. Reed and Rose.
Oh,
I thought,
yeah,
mm,
I actually don't mind that. I love a rosé, very topical for this time of year.
it is, of course. And then second one is Lottie, the Lady Lasagna of the Lavender Lawn. Mhm.
That sounds, I don't know why, very sapphic. It might be the lavender thing.
I don't know where it's got lavender from, but anyway. And then third one is Lottie, Penne, Pages, and Prosecco.
Oh, they really went hard on the alliteration.
Yeah.
I
I can ask it for three more, or do we like any of those?
feel like I'm being really precious. I mean, my favorite of the three is probably the rigatoni, Reed and rosé,
Mm.
because I do like all of those things, and that is quite pleasingly alliterative. I'm okay with it being quite on the nose.
Okay. Are we going to go with rigatoni, Reed, and Rose?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Lottie, you're christened. Yay, rigatoni. All right. On to more, possibly more serious things. So, just for the listeners, actually, a little bit more about you as a creative. So, are you an art director, copywriter, hybrid?
So I'm a copywriter. Before my current agency, where I've actually been for almost 8 years, I was actually a pretty straight down the line copywriter. I always worked in a team with an art director. And obviously, we both kind of came up with the ideas, and I would still have a view on how it looked and how we would kind of execute it together. But obviously, I was like words and they were pictures. And I think that's why I used to really love doing radio, because it felt like something I could kind of really own and lead on. And then when I moved to my current agency, I just moved as a solo creative, and we don't have kind of traditional teams. We are very flexible and work quite fluidly together depending on the project. And especially, now as well, I'm a creative director, I have another creative director, but we don't work in a team really rigidly. So I think that was quite untethering at first. But then I really leaned into art direction and strategy more, and it's made me a much more rounded creative. I mean, I still wouldn't own the word hybrid because I can't design for shit or do any lovely mock-ups. And I like love words. I really do. But I think those extra skills are kind of added more feathers to my bow and made me feel like a more rounded kind of creative copywriter then.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially as a creative director, you have to have an opinion on both, and taste is so essential, isn't it?
Of course.
Yeah, but like having the kind of craft of being more a copywriter. That's lovely
Yeah.
to hear. And just we got a little sentiment. You were in a team before, you've been in different agencies, but like, why advertising as a career, and how did you get into it? How did you become a copywriter?
So my grandpa was actually in advertising. I was quickly messaging my mum when we spoke the other week. I was like, what was the name of his agency again? So he used to be in the army when he was younger. Then he joined this agency in Norwich called Willsmore and Tiverton in like 1967, and he was there till he retired in like 93. And he was a director when he did retire. But he was actually a watercolor artist. He was on client side as they were back in the day, but he was a really beautiful artist and had a very strong creative eye. So I think
Mm.
I knew about that the industry existed through him. And then I did English literature, the most useful degree in the world. Really, really gears you up for specific jobs. And I loved it, but it is quite a pointless degree. And I finished in 2008, which was like the height of the recession. Went to London, needed a job, So I always wanted to do the Watford course, the Tony Cullingham one.
Hmm.
And I've just always told myself that it wasn't running that year and they used to run every other year. And I was kind of Googling it, going over stuff. And like, that's completely untrue. And it was definitely running. So either I missed the deadline, or I don't know what happens, or I wasn't going to be able to afford it, or I maybe kind of discovered it too late. And then I was going to have to wait a whole other year. So I'm like, I can't do this course. But a friend of mine, my housemate, had told me about, I don't know how he had found out. So I was like, right, well, I need to go to London. I had to be in London. I was in Newcastle and I needed a job. And I was like, oh, advertising sales. That's probably sort of similar. I can get in. It's not similar at all. And my boyfriend at the time lost his job because of like the recession, the financial crash. And he got offered a job in Joburg, in Johannesburg, in South Africa. And very on a whim was like, come. And I'd always had this quite romantic idea of going to South Africa. Like, it'd always be my kind of dream place I'd go when I was like grown up. I was like, okay,
Hmm.
well, this is a sign. So I followed him and got a 3-month, very unpaid internship at Grey, South Africa, under this amazing ECD called Mike Barnwell. And at the end of my 3 months, he was like, well, look, I'd love to keep you, but I'm actually emigrating to New Zealand. I was like, oh, great. But he was like, one of my old friends has got like quite a small agency, but they're starting to do really exciting things. And his friend is called Pepe Murray, who's like probably the most prolific, inspiring ECDs in South Africa. And I turned up at this job interview where he very clearly was like, look, to be clear, I have no roles for you, but let's just chat. And I had like literal sheets of paper with like scribbled headlines and just the stuff I'd learned in the 3 months that I'd been at Grey. And I don't know, I think he just, I mean, I want to say like he saw something in me, or he was just feeling really generous and kind. And he's always really appreciated people from different backgrounds and not necessarily from sort of traditional ad courses or had gone to uni to do advertising. And I think when he was younger, he's an art director and he'd had a copywriter who was English. And I think I just reminded him of her. He took such a punt on me and gave me a job for like pennies. I couldn't afford my rent or anything like that. But then like quickly just kind of built up the ranks. And it was at an indie agency which grew and grew and grew and is now doing really, really well in South Africa. And I've still got such a fondness for. But that's basically was my training, this kind of baptism of fire, going in and suddenly working in an agency and like being a creative. So in the end, I'd had this kind of disappointment of not being able to get in time for the Watford course. And then in the end, it all worked out. I mean, my relationship crumbled about 3 months after being there. But he was
Well, your
done.
career kept going.
Yeah. So, but me being in South Africa was like the right decision. And I stayed there for 6 years. And I still think like I so admire advertising in South Africa. They've got some incredible creatives and agencies over there, really amazing ECDs. And I've worked under such brilliant creatives and tons of amazing women. And that was like such a formative start for me.
It's amazing. I mean, there's so much there. It's like, first of all, even your grandfather, knowing that he's an artist in the industry, that's lovely that you knew about it through him. Yeah, I mean, amazing to think 3 months turned into like 6 years then in South Africa. Yeah, how that completely like changed. Well, the relationship's not around, but the career's still around. So yeah, yeah. I mean, it's true actually. South Africa is like a great industry, doesn't it? Really, because randomly, my first bosses when I moved to London, they both went to South Africa. Shout out to Neil Dawson and Clive Pickering, but they basically went to South Africa and worked there for years under another guy, King, I think it was. But yeah, they made some amazing work there, and they
Yeah.
loved it out there. I think they were out there for a good few years as well. And great to hear that you got to work with women, a lot of women there as well. Does it seem more progressive?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I worked I was freelancing, but kind of had a nice permalance gig for nearly a year at Ogilvy. And there were so many great women there, that loads of female CDs and a brilliant ECD at the time who was a woman. And that was, a long time ago now. So yeah, it did make a really big impression on me.
Yeah, amazing. But what a
Yes.
lovely way to go into the industry, completely like you say, up chance. Well, yeah, since then you moved back to the UK, I'm assuming. Obviously, we're from
Yes.
UK. UK
Yes.
And yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about your work actually. And is there been a few projects that you're particularly think like in your career that stand out to you and that really show off, as I would say, the unicorn magic that you have?
So I think one of the earliest pieces of work I did there, actually, I was super proud of. It was the very, very early years of what was once called Twitter. And it was our kind of first foray into social stuff. And it was for this brilliant charity, which is anti-violence against women. And it was very scrappy. There was no budget. And me and my creative partner were really young. And it was very much like on a shoestring. Do you want to make this work? Let's just go out and do it. And we got like 100 students in a room and we just tweeted for 24 hours. We had this one amazing stat that about 1,000 people die every day of AIDS. And we were like, right, well, let's create like an army of people who'll tweet. And we were linking it back to charity. And I'd written this script of what the guy was going to say. And then we had him talking like first person, like it was a real person. And then at the end of the 24 hours, we literally like killed off the Twitter accounts. But it felt like a really important piece at the time, using a platform that we hadn't really explored before until then, but in a way that was actually quite organic and authentic. And we had this army of people. We literally were in a room for 24 hours. We just all stayed up the entire time and it was mad. And it had this real like, what I imagined to be that kind of ad school energy, or when we'd pitch in the olden days when you'd be up at your desk at like 3 a.m. and you get that sort of sense of like everyone's all in it together. And it genuinely rippled and people genuinely noticed it and saw it and talked about it. And that was the first time I was like, oh my God, advertising can like genuinely make a difference. It was huge. And that was literally in my first 2 years. That was really exciting to be able to have that autonomy to run with an idea like that. But then also in terms of like work I'm proud of, I do think I chased awards a lot more as a young creative. So a great deal of it was kind of spec work and like, I mean, you're still approaching a client and saying, would you like to do this? But ultimately, if you're saying you're going to pay for it and run it on it in a student magazine like once, they're not going to say no. So I think I didn't really understand the context of how to bring a brand along and building that relationship. It was all about the creative. And I think now, as I've got older, it's doing work that I know is helping my clients and is out there and is real and works has been a very big, humbling learning curve for me. Like we do a lot of B2B campaigns at my agency, which doesn't sound very sexy, but there's so much value in finding the humanity in those, or having a brief that on paper reads quite dry, and then you know that you can bring some magic to it because there's this like beautiful human truth there or something uncovered that people haven't looked at, or that you can reframe it in a way that suddenly makes it feel so much more impactful or powerful. Like that for me is a really interesting challenge these days. So that's the kind of work that I'm really enjoying. And to be fair, I was thinking like B2B, obviously Cannes being on at the moment, I saw the B2B award, the Grand Prix went to that Faroe Islands space program where they reframed tidal power as moon power in the space race time. And I was like, God, that's such an example of like how B2B stuff can be really beautiful and really powerful. So definitely it's amazing making like a Nike ad. I used to work on the Nike account in Joburg and it was really cool, but actually probably more interesting and challenging to make bins more exciting and reframe that and people to like really understand what they can do. And then so actually that's been an amazing challenge, I think, as I've kind of grown up in my career.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, also with B2B, I do not know why people think it has to be a certain way because you're still talking to people, people own companies. So it doesn't really make sense why it shouldn't be just as interesting as, but there's a weird, misconception, isn't there, sometimes?
Absolutely. That's what we always say as well. At the end of the day, like we're all still people. A CEO of a big financial company, you're still a person.
Yeah. You want to be entertained or you want to see something different or something that stops you in your tracks.
Exactly.
But yeah, that Twitter thing does sound really interesting to hear, like how when you can galvanize people to do stuff and that energy around an idea and using tech in different ways and how advertising, it can make a difference. Everyone thinks like, whatever, but it generally can make a point or break through all the noise. But yeah, chasing the awards, it is an apt week of Cannes being on because they are trying to clamp down on things that are just awards only. But, clients, I think they see through it. You want to make sure that the work is working and that it wins because it's brilliant and works and it's fabulous. And you generally was out there for a good reason, not just for a shiny award. But,
Exactly.
yeah. So it's lovely to hear about some of your work. And I'll make sure to share Lottie's link to her portfolio and everything in the description so you can see more about her work and check out the night campaigns and some of the lovely work from South Africa and now as well. Yes, let's kind of hear a little bit about you, Lottie, the mum. We got a little description of your kids. So we know you got 2 children, but yeah, tell us a little about your family structure, your partner. Is there a family around you? What's the kind of structure in Zone 4, South East London?
So I'm in South Norwood. So my parents are in North Norfolk, which is about 3.5 hours on a good drive ish away. And then my in-laws, so my husband is South African. I met him in South Africa. But they are in Puglia in South Italy because my father-in-law's Italian. So they emigrated there a few years ago, which is nice because it's closer and lovely to go and visit. Also super hot. But yeah, so we don't have family, round the corner who could just pop in. Although my parents do give me and my husband like a weekend a year. Actually, if we asked for more, I think they would. But we go away once a year, 2 nights somewhere and just get some time, just us. Last year it was his 40th. So we went to Mallorca to this amazing villa for like 4 days with a bunch of friends and absolutely no children. And that was really lovely. So they can step in and help for like big things like that, which is really lovely. But otherwise, it's really like the friends around us that we've met through nursery, through my eldest kid's nursery. I don't know if anyone with 2 children feels like they hugely neglect their second child in terms of like friends. We very much were like, cool, we've made our friends now. And that all the younger siblings are friends. So and occasionally the youngest to be like, but we never have a play date with Luna. And I'm like, I know, but I don't like Luna's mum.
Love it.
So that is the crushing reality. But we have really good friends who we met through kind of nursery and school, and we've been lucky enough to go to local school together, and we all help babysitting. So if we wanted to go out, I mean, again, like now they're a bit older, we started doing like dinners out now more. I mean, I think when they were younger, we'd always be like, right, we're going to meet for lunch because then the children could still be there and they can just get on a sofa and crash out and we can feel like grown-ups. And now it's so nice to have reclaimed our evenings again. So yeah, if we want to go out or if we have something on or if the trains are late or there's been a disaster or there's, we need some help with pickup or whatever it might be, we all really lean on each other. And as twee as it sounds, like they have really been my village. And that's been amazingly helpful. And just a really nice community that we've got around us. Like we never moved into this house thinking that we'd be here for ages and ages. And now we've been in this house for like 9 years and I can't really imagine leaving. So it's lovely. We do feel really embedded here. My husband works from home the whole time now. He's started his own business in October and is fully remote. Having been back in the day 5 days in the office, well, I mean, we all were, but even straight after COVID, he went back in very quickly. He's in insurance. I caught my reflection as I like snarled as I said that. I'm always like, like insurance. He's in like money. It's really unfair because he's actually a very creative human being. He's just really dry job. So he does protection. So like life insurance.
We all need it. We all need it.
You
Yeah.
need it. I've got great insurance, which is it's the one thing I'm a grown up about when it comes to money. But yeah, so he has his own business. So when we first had children and he was in the office all the time, like, that first year they're at nursery and they are always ill. And every time you'd get that call, like, oh, Edie's got a temperature, you have to come pick her up. And it was always me. And there was this one time where I was like, I'm literally walking to a meeting. I can't, please, can you help? And can you do this? And he went to his boss to say, like, I'm really sorry, I have to go pick up my daughter. She's ill. And he was like, well, where's your wife? There was absolutely no room for him to be a father. Like, it wasn't an accepted role. So I put a lot of pressure on me. And even though I would say I still do the bulk of the mental load of organizing the house, like I've got the children's school app. I buy all the uniform. Like I know when they need to get new shoes. I know when they're doing the clubs. I book all of the breakfast clubs. I do all that stuff. But when it comes to actual like doing of the childcare, it probably now has swung more 60-40 in him because he picks up the kids on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I do Monday, Friday at home. I'm in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. He picks up the kids and they get this like really lovely time where they can walk back from school and he can have that kind of that time with them that he really loves. And he can fling a snack at them and then go back to work. Sometimes screens, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Sometimes like enforced reading time. And then it means that I don't have to like rush back on those days that I'm at work. I've recently, new boundary I've set at work is that I want to be back and have dinner with my kids because now they're a bit older. I love that I work. I actually don't think I would be a great stay-at-home mom. I need to work.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I'm really aware of how many hours I spend away from my children. So I think even little things that we can bed in and make routine and normalize and sort of safeguard, like us just having dinner together every night. So instead of eating at like 8:30, we all eat together at sort of 6:30, 7:15. That just feels quite important now. And I would rather make sure I can get back, do that, and then pick up. I feel like every other mum I know, then pick up work later when they've gone to bed. So
Yeah.
then I just get to like, have that time with my kids. And that's where we can start talking about school and what's going on and what they want to do and just have genuine conversations as opposed to being that rushed bedtime thing where you're rushing them into the bath and then you're rushing them into bed and you're chucking a book at them and then you still have to go down and cook dinner. So I think it
Mhm.
has eased our kind of evenings and made them closer and much more precious.
Yeah.
I mean, we started doing this like, last summer, and in my head, I was like, "Oh my god, they're going to be eating like aubergines and sardines and like mushrooms by now. They're going to be so adventurous. They're going to have such a sophisticated palate, and they're still so fucking fussy." But well, like this evening,
Uh-huh.
Ava came in and said, "What are we having for dinner?" And I said, "Oh, we're going to do chicken fajitas." And who doesn't like fajitas?
Mm.
She said, "I don't want that. I want beans." And I went, "Okay, well, we're having chicken fajitas." Yeah, grateful.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. So funny.
so
Lovely.
we'll get there, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's great actually, because even like yours are 9 and 6, isn't it? So you can kind of
yeah,
see that you get a little bit more of your life back, and then even the structure of the day. Yeah, it's evolved obviously a lot. It's really funny. I was saying this myself and my husband, that we're really trying with my youngest to pal in more and see his little pals. But then he's about to start school, and he's gotten into the class with some of Harrison's friends' kids, like their little brothers and
oh
sisters.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
you've aligned in some way that, yeah, everybody has like a 3-year gap or whatever. It's great. But it is inspiring to hear that you're speaking about boundaries, yeah, making sure, even though they're getting older, you still, this is work and this is family time.
yeah,
And yeah, like there's a thing of when they're young, you have to get back for certain times for pickups. But it's,
yes,
yeah, but it's
yeah. The
great to like,
6 p.m. nursery kick out that used to be so
yeah,
stressful, and you'd be
yeah,
like down to the wire on what time your train you could get to
mhm,
run to make them at
yeah,
like,
to make
and then we
it,
could
yeah,
have dropped them as they opened, pick them up just as they're closing. You
yeah,
know, we've all sort of done. But it is nice. That is lovely to have changed a bit. But yeah, as you say, it's
mm,
still wanting to find that time where we can still have, yeah,
mm.
family time together and I can chat to them and be their mum.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it, to hear about their day, especially I think they need you in different ways as they get older. Just like how you touched on your husband and some ladies about, shared parental leave and how some industries are so behind in that it makes it really hard on women. Even if your company is progressive, it has to be from both sides. Like you're like,
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, I want to pick them up," and the company are like, "What? Like you can't do that."
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a
Kind of
shame. I'm always quite envious when I hear about people doing shared parental leave. It just wasn't an option for us. Wasn't an option first time around, and then second time around, like Ava's a COVID baby. She was born exactly like a month and 1 day after we locked down. So I mean, so he ended up being actually way more present and kind of a stay-at-home dad and having a bit more of maternity leave because we were all forced inside. So
yeah.
weirdly, it was lovely that first
Yeah.
lockdown.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? The two different mat leaves actually. Yeah, it'd be great to hear actually, just based on when you first had ED, where you were at in your career and how were you feeling about that happening?
In reflection, I was actually still quite young into my career. I don't. Uh, I don't remember being like genuinely worried. I like a slight underlying nerve, but I had an amazing ECD, a female ECD, the last female ECD I had, Caitlin Ryan, who then left and went on to Meta. But she basically totally protected my role. And when I came back, she said to me, "Oh, you won't want to work a 5-day week. I'm going to get you a 4-day week on the same pay." I was like, okay. That was amazing. So I think because I knew I had her like fighting my corner, I knew that she was there and she would back me and she would kind of protect me and make sure that I could come back as well to a place that was sort of appropriate and in the right conditions and that I could ease back in and all of that stuff. So I don't know, I went off probably quite naive as well, if I'm honest, like about most things with motherhood. Like I had such an idea of how it would be. And basically every part of pregnancy, giving birth, the 3 months afterwards, mat leave itself, like everything was different to what I thought it would be in my head.
Yeah, yeah, completely. So that's great to hear about Caitlin as well. They're fabulous. I think anyone who's in a CD position or ECD position, get your creative stuff. A 4-day week on the same pay. That's a good goal to achieve. So you were like a senior, midweight, like what
No,
was
I
like
think I was definitely mid. I was
mid?
midweight when
Yeah,
I went away. So
yeah. That's great to
yeah,
hear.
bit of a risk, I guess. Like,
Yeah, well, not really, but it's just good to hear that you're like mid in your career and someone really vouching for you too. So that does give you obviously less worries about going out.
mm.
Um, yeah, you kind of touched on it there, but when you're going off, you were like, oh yeah, it's going to be this, going to be that. But how did you find being off in your first maternity leave? What was it like?
So I had lots of lovely bits. My eldest is a June baby, so it was lovely being off in summer. And there was lots like wafting around parks, drinking nice coffees, meeting up with friends and eating loads of cake because I was breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And I was constantly starving. And yeah, so that was really lovely. And I had kind of two girlfriends who I'd met during NCT, which is
Mm.
basically that like you pay money to find a friend and have a baby with.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and learn a bit of baby stuff along the way. So yeah, that had been really good. So there were lots of bits of mat leave that I loved, but then also it was like cluster feeding when it's a heat wave and your baby's growing. And I just remember being like half naked on a sofa for the entire day watching like Homes Under the Hammer with like crying from one eye. And like
Yeah.
my husband would come home and be like, "Hey," and I was like, "Everything's fine." Just quite emotional and feeling quite trapped sometimes.
Mm.
I do remember answering the door at like a delivery and like getting the package off the guy and turning around and there being a mirror in my hallway. And I was like, "Oh, that's one tip fully out." Just
I love
so
it.
unaware of my body
Yeah,
and like it just
no.
feeling like alien to me.
Yeah,
And I
really.
think as much as I loved being a mother to a newborn in like many ways, did feel like I was going a bit stir crazy as well. And I felt like a real clash in terms of like my identity. I was like, oh God, who am I even anymore? I felt like useful, but to a point that felt quite farmyard animal like. And I just wanted to feel useful in a way that people valued my creative opinion. I wanted to ask what I thought about something as
Mhm.
opposed to just being like a source of food. So I did like 6 months and then I went back. And I
Mhm.
know I was quite anxious for the few months before I go back because it was also financially motivated too because my agency at the time didn't have a maternity leave. So I had 6 weeks, 90% pay and then statutory. And also we'd been like, we'll try and get pregnant and it'll take ages and we'll save up while we're waiting. And then got pregnant first time around. So I was going
Mhm.
in very organized, but basically just did 6 months. And even though a few weeks before I was a bit nervous, and then the first weeks being back was weird, but actually in the end, it definitely was the right decision for me and for us.
Mhm.
And my
Yeah.
child went to nursery and she just like really thrived. And yeah, it was a good move for the family.
Yeah. Touching on the maternity pay there, that's wild, isn't it? 6 weeks full pay and
Yeah.
then statutory. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Mm.
so I don't know if I'm allowed to name drop. One of my biggest clients was Samsung. And so we had like no maternity leave as Samsung's agency. This was at Chael. And then I knew someone who was working at Samsung and she got a year's full pay mat leave. And I was like, what? How can
Wow.
you guys get mat leave? So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
wild.
mean, you'd be surprised. Like, I know BCP's maternity package is quite good. But when I was at McCann, I had the same 6 weeks pay and then on to statutory, and it was wild. But I don't know whether it's like the American ethos or
Yes.
it was wild to kind of think, yeah, man. So I mean, either way, it's good to start saving if you're considering it, isn't it? Just because you never know where you'll end
Oh
up
my
with
God,
your baby.
I should have been
Yeah.
sensible about it, and I wasn't at all.
You can never plan these things, but it's, yeah, even for us, I ended up saving because we took a bit longer for us to get pregnant the first time. But yeah, it's still, it's wild. It's crazy to think that a lot of companies don't have those policies in place or they don't have that pay in place. But
Yeah, I know,
yeah,
which is just
yeah.
feels so archaic. Yeah.
I mean, it's good to hear you went back at 6 months. Obviously, you got your 4-day week for a 5-day week pay. That was like
Yes.
literally fought for you, which is great. And then you obviously settled in creche, and it's so good for them. Like they love it, the socializing, they thrive. Everyone thinks that they're gonna hate you forever, but they actually love every moment of it.
And I do think weirdly, like a 6-month-old is easier to give to nursery staff than a 1-year-old is. In that year, often when, people maybe go back at a year and they often get a bit clingy then. And I remember having certain friends who found it quite hard doing that transition. And I was like, oh, it's so weird. Uh, she was so little and she was so happy to be there, which made it a lot easier on me. And when she got kind of clingier, when she was older, it was always like, when you have to sort of pull them off you, they're like little koalas, and you could just hear them crying as you walk down the street. Oh, hate that.
Yeah, hard. It's hard. It's hard. It still happens sometimes, doesn't it? To been at
I
one age
know,
there.
and my gut
Yeah,
will.
yeah. And then like your second maternity leave, very different.
Whole world was closed. So
Yeah,
I'd
so
had this like
fine.
I'd had this vision of like doing some baby groups with Ava, and uh, I'd already had kind of female friendships, mums established, and I knew some other people that were having babies soonish, and I was like, oh great, I'll feel so much more like kind of on top of things. I'll know what I'm doing because it's second time round. Also, ha ha ha. But yeah, and then the world closed, and the weeks leading up to it, the way they were talking about how the births were going to be was quite scary. And we had chosen to have a birth in the birthing center at the Croydon University Hospital where I had my first baby. And even though it's a separate wing, I was still aware that we were going to a hospital during a pandemic where it was at that point where everyone was it was quite scary. Lots of people
Mm.
dying. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to have a baby in a hospital now. And they were saying how birth partners were only going to be allowed in there for about, I think it was a few hours, and then they would have to leave. And they could only be with you once you're in that kind of advanced stage of labor. And it all on paper sounded quite bad. And I think it turned out that the day before we gave birth, that was like the highest peak of COVID, like people getting COVID in the country. So it was like a very weird, fraught time. But actually, I had like the most beautiful birth, surrounded by midwives who I just felt so like loved and held. There was like, just happened to not be anyone giving birth at the same time. So I had like the whole birthing suite to myself, this like huge big room, like 6 women were helping me have a baby. I left it really late and labored most of my laboring at home, dropped Edie at our friends around the corner. My waters broke outside their house. Like, when it got another ice cream because it was freakishly hot. Do you remember at the beginning of COVID, it was like
Yeah.
really hot? We all had that freak early summer. Got like an ice cream, called the midwives, and we're like, so my water's like broke. Shall I come in soon? They're like, first or second, baby? I was like, second. They're like, get here right now. Took us like 10 minutes in the car to get there. And at like 4:45, which on a normal day, obviously peak rush hour, would have taken us ages. I definitely would have had the baby in the car if it wasn't COVID, because I arrived there and I started mooing. Like,
No, God, no, the
they
mooing.
would
Yeah.
be like, because they were like, we have to check you before we can admit you. And I just, yeah, started mooing very loudly. And they were like, right. They just like put me in a wheelchair and wheeled me through. And my husband had forgotten the hospital bag. So he like ran back to get it. And he'd like parked somewhere that was not a parking. And he wasn't sure like how long he was going to be there. It was all suddenly very quick after quite a slow first one. And he ran through and like opened the doors, and Ava was already like halfway out. I mean, we arrived at the hospital at 10 to 5, and I was holding her at like 5:15. So it was all
Wow.
very quick. And then we were just at home, and it was gutting because we couldn't see family for, I can't remember what it was in the end, it was 6 weeks or 7 weeks. It felt like a long time at the time. Obviously, in reflection, that's nothing. But we had this amazing bubble where we were just in the sunshine in our garden, and we got to actually really enjoy that baby bit at the beginning where, often you're inundated with visitors and friends and family, and it's all very well meaning, but actually to have that unspoilt and to just all be together and really properly bond was a weird gift.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. A totally different experience. But yeah, the pros of COVID, dare we say there was some, but there was in that
Silver
regard. Yeah.
linings.
Yeah, yeah. And then so between the two of them, obviously two different times going back to work. So the next time you went back to work, did you feel any difference of like excitement or nervousness about going back to work either time or
So I'd moved to a different agency by then and I'd moved on a 4-day. But what was tricky was that no one in the agency at the time, again, pre-COVID, we weren't doing flexible working. And there were some challenges with sort of being a person who was only working for 4 days while the rest of the team worked for 5. And even though I sort of tried to really bed in those boundaries, no, I don't think I really tried to bed in those boundaries, actually. I think I tried to really people please and I apologized a lot. And I didn't make it clear enough that like Wednesday was my day where I was at home with my child because I wanted to still have time with her even when she was 2. So I think if I went back now, I think I'd do it differently. Wasn't confident enough. And I was very aware that I was in a new agency this time. And I felt like I had a lot to prove, but I didn't want to be seen as like a total flake. So I think the first few years when I was there and like then moving into kind of going off on maternity leave, I don't think I owned it properly enough. So yeah, I would do that differently now.
yeah,
Again, I just chose to do 6 months because it worked for me last time. And coming back was actually great and everyone was really lovely. And obviously, it's got a really lovely culture there. The people I work with are brilliant. But I think COVID there actually, again, really helped reframe hybrid working. And that ended up being a massive help because 2 children working 5 days a week is actually really hard work. So then when that balance happened, that really helped. And I think because everyone was doing the like flexible working, it didn't feel like a perk that parents get, which I think up until then, anytime you had to work from home or go home and get your kids, I don't know, I always felt like I had to apologize. And I just felt like people were disappointed that I was doing that. Which,
yeah.
as a projection thing, and that's internalizing a lot of crap and mum guilt and all of the labels. Yeah, that was kind of my feeling initially.
Yeah. Can you look back and think like don't apologize? I mean, it's easier to be at work than it is to be at home with kids. Like when people say, "Oh, you've got a Friday off," because I have my youngest still, and I'm not actually off. Like it's actually harder because he's constantly asking me for stuff, and I can't just like zone out and like scroll on a website. That's not how it rolls.
Yes.
But
And they're like, oh, enjoy your holiday. And you're like, not
not my is actually being at work is a bit of a holiday thing. Yeah.
and I'm going to be rocking in the corner, but don't worry.
Yeah, yeah, it's not what they think. But, hindsight, I suppose anyone listening, when you're going back, not to feel guilty about those things and just drawing those boundaries are very important just for yourself, aren't they? Just stay firm and otherwise it ends up being carnage.
Owning that role and being confident that you are allowed to do that.
Yeah. And then work wise, you kind of touched on a little bit, Lottie. You were excited to go back, use your brain, get stuck into briefs like that. Both times were you like, yeah, let me at it? Or,
Definitely. I mean, obviously, you get those odd moments where you get that pang and you feel like you're missing a limb, but then the joy of not wearing a maternity bra and having a bag that isn't full of nappies just really outweighed that for me in the end.
yeah,
And I felt like when I had a good day in the office, I took all that energy back home and I just felt like I could be a better parent.
yeah. Still use all parts of your brain when you've been doing that pre kids. And then now, so obviously they're like 9 and 6. You're out of the baby phase into, God, what do we call it? Preteen phase, I suppose.
Well, I know. I
Yeah.
think now this is like a tween. Ugh.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So how does the day work now? Just kind of give listeners a bit of idea of like drop offs, collecting. How does it work now that they're in school, basically?
So Mondays and Fridays I take it because I work from home. The kids have breakfast club every day. We walk to their school, which is just a few streets away, which is lovely. And I leave here at like 7:30 to drop them. And then they don't have after school clubs, but sometimes they do have a few like after school clubs. But again, it's like trying to find a club that both of them can do that's on the same day because we were like, we're not doing a double pickup. I'm not coming at 3:30 to pick up one and then 4:30 to pick up another. There's a couple of days that they do that and like I take them swimming on a Monday. So that's kind of the juggle that I'll do. And then my husband will do the drop off and pick up in that midweek, Tuesday,
Hmm.
Wednesday, Thursday. So yeah, that's like hugely helped for me for that kind of balance. Next Monday, I have an in-person pitch that is 2 o'clock till 3:15, so I won't be able to do pickup. But it's just communicating. God, that's something me and my husband are still working on, but trying to get better at communicating and booking those things in, and knowing that I have the support of my friends around us too. If he's suddenly like, I have a meeting, I can't move it. It's tricky. I feel like I can be a bit more flexible with my work schedule, because if it's an internal meeting, then sometimes often I can shuffle it. But if Carlo, my husband, has a client, an external client, then he can't ask them to move it because it doesn't suit my schedule. So,
Mhm.
and he often works in the evenings because obviously a lot of people he's speaking to have jobs and they can't speak to him at 4 o'clock in the day. So he's quite busy in the evenings, but then at least he kind of gets to take them home from school, like set them up with snacks, sort them out, go back to work. And then when I get back in the door, I can sort of take over and pick up and make sure that they're like showered and got pajamas on and we can have dinner and stuff. So it's like a nice like passing the baton. When it works,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's great, but it shows like the flexibility and how you need to, yeah, communicate, compromise, all those words no one wants to say, but that are quite important. That, yeah, that's great that he does the kind of daytime and then you in the evening.
Yes,
Yeah,
in the
juggle.
evening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then there's still a cost to all the school clubs and all that. Like, so just even at this stage, actually, how much do you say all the kid stuff costs a month between clubs and breakfast club and all that kind of jazz? What does it come up to if you don't mind sharing?
I mean, no, not at all. That's the funny thing, isn't it? My kids are at state school, but then there's still the breakfast club. There's like their swimming club. I mean, this school organized clubs are very reasonable, and they're doing like a music thing. They're the drums, which I find actually really cool. I'm really excited that one of them might be a drummer. I think my youngest is just doing it because the eldest is doing it. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's probably not stupid amounts, but probably like 500 quid a month on clubs
Mm,
and things and
yeah,
lessons of sorts.
yeah.
So it does
Mhm.
kind of add up.
Yeah, it does. Like you think get to school is gonna be free, but it's good
It's
to hear.
free. Yeah.
Yeah, it's free. It's everything's free. A free education. Okay. But yeah.
It would have been like double that if they were still doing after school. The after school club, there's the biggest cost. So
Mm,
actually, my husband being able to take them from school and not have to do that has been a huge saving for us as a family.
that's great. That's really good. That's really good. And you kind of touched on it, but you were a 4-day week, and now you do Monday and Friday from home. But yeah, so how many days a week are you now?
Yeah, I went back to a 5-day. I think when Ava was maybe 2, I got to this point where I was like, I'm picking up work on my day off because everyone else is still working. And even though I was doing a Wednesday, which I felt was a really good day because I could kind of be there for briefs on Monday, know what's happening at the end of the week. And the idea was to sort of slip away on a Wednesday and that could work. But obviously, agency life moves so fast. And if everyone else is still working, just that 24 hours out, I realized I would be like checking in, doing emails and stuff on the evening before, like Wednesday evening before going back to work on the Thursday. Sometimes there was a big client call. I was like, oh, I'll just dial in for it. Or there would be little things. And I was like, do you know what? If I'm going to be doing this work, I might as well be bloody paid for it. And
Mhm.
actually, to be fair, I had felt that I was ready to go back to a 5-day. And Ava was in a really good position and she was doing okay. She was like 2 at the time. She was actually still a bit of a nightmare. Maybe that's why I wanted to go back to 5 days.
Yeah, terrible twos, terrible twos. Yeah, but with the 5 days of where you are now, do you have flexibility if you need to work from home? I mean, obviously you work from home Monday, Fridays, but are they good around childcare, or if not, did you have to ask for
Yes,
that?
I am so lucky. All of my 3 directors have children, and thankfully 2 of them have still got quite young children. So that's really helped because they're very understanding. I feel like so often school things, they're like, "Oh, come and hear about what we're gonna do with phonics. Now it's really important. It's a Tuesday at 10:30." And you're like, "I can't do that."
I know, I know.
Um, and often assemblies are always on a day that I'm in the office, but I try and do at least one assembly for one of them once a year. And then my husband's really good and will do the others. And then we just had, I don't know if you guys have had your sports day yet. We had sports day last week. It was like Wednesday, 9 till midday. And I was like, well, I can't do the whole morning, but I'll do a few hours. And they didn't ask me to take leave or anything, but I was not working while I was at sports day. So yeah, they are incredibly supportive and flexible when it comes to kids stuff. Because once they're at school, the hours that they put stuff on is just, it's mad. I don't really know how it suits
See to anyone.
people,
Yeah.
both parents working. And I feel like so many of us must both be working, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially in London, I think maybe it's different in other parts. But it is crazy. I mean, all the working parents kind of go like, why half 10 for that thing? I totally empathize with what you're saying. And the sports days, yeah, like even if you've got two kids, you're like, oh God, are there sports days on the same day? Please be on the same day. Yeah. But it's good that you work for a place that has, yeah, parents, they've got kids at different ages like they do, that you all kind of understand and you know people really need the flexibility.
Mm.
And it's like, once the work gets done right. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not micromanaged and there's a lot of trust there, which I hugely appreciate. Great understanding that I am a parent as well. Like I feel like I can be a parent at work. I don't have to sort of hide it. You know, I do think some places you still hear that it's sort of, yeah, not really allowed, which is nonsense, but there we go.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, that leads on to your good few years into parenting and the juggle of it all. But when you look back at, say, the South African version of yourself getting into the industry, do you think it has changed your confidence anyway? Made you more confident, less confident? Has it changed over the years?
I definitely think I'm better at my job because I'm a parent. I know that I'm quicker, I'm better at prioritizing, I can juggle. I think I bring a lot. I bring a different story now, a different perspective, more empathy. I think as a creative, to be able to tell multiple stories, it's so important for us to be able to hold that and do that. And I think being a parent kind of opens you up to this whole other world and you can access so much. And I feel like it's so creatively enriching. Obviously, I'm speaking from like a really privileged position of being a parent and it feeling like it's working for me. And I can't tell what I'd be like if I chosen not to have children. I couldn't have kids and I was still working. I'm not saying like only parents are great creatives, but I swear no one can time keep and organize projects like a mother can.
Yeah, this is true. The planning of a mother. But that's lovely to hear as well. Like, so you think your creativity has flourished more. That's lovely to hear because it does open you up to things. Just going back and playing all the games, reading all the books that you've forgotten about. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a little bit more on your actual work. We kind of touched on some of your work earlier on in our chat, but is there any work since you became a mom that you're really particularly proud of?
I haven't been able to work in loads of motherhood spaces. Although actually, now I'm saying that, I just realized there was a thing. I did something for She Says for Nick, who she's now leading it, a co-leader of She Says. We did like a Mother's Day campaign with cards and we created these special Mother's Day cards for creative mums that were kind of all rooted in these little insights. And we wrote these kind of little mini scenes and we worked with all these really incredible creative mum illustrators and we printed it all ourselves. And again, it was all done on like total shoestrings. We didn't really have a budget. And then kind of did pop-ups in agencies. And it was really nice to do something in that kind of motherhood space where I felt like I could speak about it inside out. You know, so often we work for brands and God, I had to research the shit out of this thing because I'm having to sell like bioenergy with carbon capture and storage. And I'm like, what is this? But like motherhood, all day long, I'll talk to you about that.
Yeah.
Actually, that was really fun. And it did feel like such a lovely way to kind of tip the hat and nod to all the amazing mums in Adland
Yeah,
juggling.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And also, She Says do such great work. A big fan.
Yeah, a really incredible
Yeah.
organization.
So yeah, if you don't know She Says, go to their events. They're awesome. And yeah, just kind of more on the creative side. What do you love about the creative process the most? Like being a writer, is it like the noodling of the words, or is it like the idea side, or it's the production side?
Um, I mean, I love getting a big, juicy campaign brief, and you know that you have to start with like that really big idea that's going to roll out everywhere. I love the challenge of that, even though I always get the fear at the beginning of it when you're like, I'm never going to crack this. And then I love it when it just comes and you sort of suddenly think of like 20 ideas and you've been sat there for 3 hours before just staring at a page, scribbling and doodling weird stuff. So I do love that. And also then that fear of the blank page. when you have to start from scratch. You're like, where am I going to go with this? And then it just kind of pours out of you. That sounds really dumb. What do you like? The beginning. But
Yeah, no,
it
but
is
that's
like
really exciting. Yeah, the
that.
cracking. Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Mm,
that challenge of like, where am I going to take this? How big can I make it? Can I
mm,
make it better? But I would still say, though, there's nothing quite like bouncing ideas off someone else. So
mhm.
as much as I
Yeah.
love, writing something and being like, oh, aren't I good? I really enjoyed writing that. Actually, there's nothing like sitting with someone and just chucking ideas at each other. I
Mhm.
still find that so exhilarating.
Yeah. And it's such a unique thing about the job, isn't it? When you try to explain to people that we work like that and that you have to work with someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing. Well, I'm glad to hear as a writer you love the blank page because that is probably the one thing that a writer looks at a lot, isn't it? So it's like,
Yeah. Got
yeah,
loads of those.
yeah, loads of those. But yeah, I mean, on that, you'll remember this when you kind of come back after being a mom and start working. It's a lot, isn't it, to kind of get back into the job. So just with all that hindsight and knowing what it's like, Lottie, is there any kind of tip or hack you'd give a fellow creative mother that might be struggling with that sort of thing?
Oh, there's probably a really practical hack that if someone else listening to this can then share, I would love to know. Thank you. I think, but from like an emotional point of view, I would say if you have more than one child, you have one child and everything seems so hard. And then you have two and you're like, how did I think one was hard? But then you just do it and you get on with it and you think, how am I going to go back and do my work and be a parent? And then you do it and then suddenly you're doing it and you're fine. I think that sense of you are so much more capable than you think you are, and once you've kind of got into a few days down, the routine will flow and just suddenly it's normal and it's your everyday. So I would say to try not to let that fear of how you're going to manage manifest to a point that you kind of are paralyzed by it or can't move on, because of it. Know that you are incredibly strong and powerful and you will be okay.
Yeah, births
And
will
also,
be.
whatever you end up doing, as long as it works for your family, great.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter what like that girl in NCT or that person that you work with that's in the other team, like doesn't matter what they do, whatever works for your family is great.
exactly. There's no medals, just get through it.
Oh.
So you'll be fine. You'll be fine. That's a great bit of advice, actually. And speaking of, we give advice, but in all of this, craziness, is how do you look after yourself, Lottie? Because, being a creative, well, the reason I set up the Unicorn Union is because I think that the creative brain is a very different thing to other brains. And the mindset and how you have to think and nurture a creative and how it's inherently part of you when you come up with these ideas or face that blank page. But yeah, how do you look after you in the midst of it all? Because it can be a lot, right?
Yes, absolutely. For me, I think running is like my tonic. It's the cheapest therapy I've ever done. And I know my husband now will sometimes actively kind of shoo me out of the house with my trainers on if he thinks that I'm getting a bit like a bit aggy. He's like, just could you just go on a run, please? And then I'll come back and I'm like, da, 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 I've just thought it all out. I'm turning 40 this year and I've got this really wanky list of goals. I feel like way more than I was aware of turning 30. I just feel very aware of turning 40 and like quite very excited to it. I feel good about it. But on there is like to start meditating because I don't meditate and I feel like I should. But the closest I get to meditating is running, where I can just feel really present, really in the moment, which I think, as we all know, it's something that is quite tricky, something that maybe lots of us struggle with. And literally just getting to kind of do something quite physical to move my body and to take myself either away from a problem or just to move my brain and let something that's literally feels like it's been stuck there to kind of dislodge and to be able to sit with it. My brain is like in a different state when I'm running and I can come back and I do always feel a lot clearer, even if I had a hard run and I didn't enjoy it and I didn't feel strong and powerful and bouncy. And I got back afterwards, I just always feel so much better.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. I love that being shooed out of the house with the trainers. Get out. Sort yourself out, get out the door and run. So, with that, is there one thing you wish you knew before becoming a creative mother? I think more so not just a mother, but actually being a creative and a mother. Is there anything you look back, especially, your oldest being 9 now that you go, I wish I'd known that about this job and being a mother?
I mean, I wish I'd had the confidence to set boundaries and be unapologetically a creative mother, and that would make me better at my job and in a way that I could really own. But again, I think that's just something you have to learn with time, and you can't really rush that. You just have to kind of learn as you go. So not really. I think I was just very lucky that I had good people that looked after me, and kind of helped pave that way a bit for me, because I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah. I mean, even that, isn't it? Just making sure you're surrounded maybe by people who are looking after you, like before.
Yeah, that's building that network and then getting that advice and having someone in place in your workplace, and then people that you can talk to out of work as well, just very honestly and openly, and who can kind of help be those sounding boards, give you that confidence you might not be feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And knowing what you know now, would you still pick advertising as a career? Still?
Oh yeah. I mean, it drives me mad sometimes, but obviously every industry must have those tricky bits. But I think I still kick myself that I get to do this as a job. Like it's not even really like a real job, right? It's like a silly job, but I'm so I'm like, I can't believe I'm sort of still doing it. Like I always knew I wanted to do advertising because of my grandpa and like knowing about it. I'm not sure if I knew I'd still be doing it now. I think I was like, oh, well, I'll do that for a bit and then I'll do a proper job, like be a writer and like write a book, which I feel like is probably every tortured copywriter's wish. Has got a novel in me. I've got like 3 novels in me. I half have written short stories on my laptop squirreled away. But no, I can't believe that I'm still doing it and I still love it. At its best, it's the best job in the world.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we hear. That's what we hear. And it's especially we'd hear the mothers thriving in the industry. But what do you think our industry could do more to make sure there's more people like you that are in the industry so we stay around and are still excited by it?
I mean, it is still so depressing though, isn't it? How the people at the top still doesn't feel like it's females, let alone mothers. So I think there's that huge structural shift where we still need to have a proper, equal kind of leadership. And I think just from there, things would change because culture would change and people would lead differently. I mean, I think I've been really lucky that even though 2 of my bosses are men, they've had young children recently, so they totally understand. I think there are too many male bosses who had kids a long time ago and probably didn't raise them. So there's just that complete barrier and like a lack of understanding. So I think that is a huge thing. But there are so many groups and people out there, obviously mentioned She Says earlier, that are really trying to create space for women and for mothers. I mean, somewhere like the Unicorn Union has been such a incredible source in a useful way in terms of like resources. Like I've always had amazing freelancers from there and you can message on their last minute and go like, really need help with an editor, really looking for a freelance art director, whatever it might be. And you know, you're going to get gold back. And then also it's just been a lovely space to kind of share concerns or ask for people's advice or just chat about stuff in a really casual way. I think it's those communities, finding those community spaces are like everything. And I think you really hope that young women, if they are thinking about becoming mothers, these are the kind of spaces they need to seek out and join. Because the industry itself is not really offering these up, but we're doing it because we're creatives that fix problems.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, hopefully people create more of them, but I wish the industry would support more of them. Would be great, wouldn't it? Versus everyone having to do it by themselves. But on that creativity and creatives, doing all these bits themselves, what are you most excited about in regards to your creativity going forward? So into the future, Lottie, is there a book? Is there a book in
Maybe I'm
there?
going to have to take those 3 books out of my trash. I would love to do more writing for me. As you know, like it can be so all consuming and it doesn't ever really feel like you have time to just have those projects that are just completely yours. So I think I want to try and make more time for kind of personal projects because I do again think that really bleeds into our kind of creative full-time jobs. And there's definitely like an amazing offset, right? When you're being really creative elsewhere, that kind of pulls through into your other parts of your world. So yeah, more of that. Yeah, like I'm trying to build my team at my creative department at my agency at the moment. So that's really exciting. So just bringing up some younger people, looking after that next generation of creatives, I guess.
Amazing. That's super exciting. Yeah, definitely. Nurturing the next gen. That's very important. And I kind of end on a very poignant question, which is for unicorns. But what would you say your superpower is?
I think I'm better at juggling than I give myself credit for. And I don't know if that's something you should shout about, because I know we should all be single-minded and like hone a craft. But actually, my life at the moment is very much a juggle. And even though I get a clammy chin, I think I am good at the juggle.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd say
Yeah.
that.
The juggler. I love it. Yeah. Maybe we should add that into your unicorn name. What? But that's a lovely way to end. And yes, being a really good juggler is very, very important. And you're obviously doing a great job. But speaking of juggling, thank you so much for fitting me in this evening and talking to me in this intense heat. And it's been an absolute joy chatting to you. And yeah, thanks for your time, Lottie. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you for creating the Unicorn Union.
I mean, sometimes a blessing and a curse.
Unicorn!
I hope you enjoyed listening to a conversation with a real life unicorn. Please follow us to hear more, and any shares with creatives or mothers would be truly appreciated. Credit to Simone Hendrick for our logo design, and to my two sons for their wonderful voices. Produced and edited by myself.